Ethiopia commences the construction of the biggest cement factory in Africa. And Ministry of Women, Children and Youth says it's working to empower women in all sectors. A very warm welcome to our This News Hour. I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. Ethiopia commences the construction of the biggest cement factory in Africa. The Lomé National Cement Industrial Complex has been officially commenced yesterday in the presence of President Sahle-Work Zewde, Amhara State Chief Agenyo Teshage, former Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, and other government officials. The project is part of the $2.2 billion investment agreement between the age-old East African Holdings on the Ethiopian side and the renowned multinational West International Holding on the Chinese side. Laying the foundation stone of the industrial complex, President Sahle-Work Zewde said Ethiopia has no choice but drifting to economic progress by realizing such huge projects to break the shackles of foreign aid dependency. Apart from the cement factory, 6 other factories will be built under the industrial complex with a span of 7 years. The first phase of the industrial complex, which includes the cement factory, is expected to be finalized within the coming 18 months at a cost of $600 million. Upon fully operational, the cement factory will produce 10,000 tons of cement per day. The UN Security Council yesterday ended a meeting on the crisis in Ethiopia's Tigray region without any agreement, diplomats said. Veto whirling Russia and China, and then permanent member India voiced objections to a joint statement on the grounds that it interfered in Ethiopia's internal affairs, the diplomats told AFP. Cuban ambassador to Ethiopia Vilma Thomas called upon Ethiopians to dignify the sacrifices of their forefathers in protecting the sovereignty of the country. The ambassador expressed her country's commitment to bolster the long-standing ties with Ethiopia in various aspects. Kasanjane presents the story as follows.
Ethiopia and Cuba have had deep-rooted and historic ties in the diplomatic arena. Ethiopians see Cuba as a strategic partner and praise its role during the Somali invasion. Cuban ambassador to Ethiopia Vilma Thomas said the relationship between these two sisterly nations is in a good position, recalling the long-standing partnership.
Cubans came to Ethiopia only as part of a policy of international solidarity that we applied all over the world. We go wherever we are requested to do so. We help. We support the objectives of the government, and we do so just because we think we have to cooperate with each other, not expecting anything in return. Cubans came to Ethiopia at the request of the Ethiopian government of the time to help Ethiopia with advisors in the military front, and also with experts helping Ethiopia in health, in engineering, in many of the social programs Ethiopia was developing at the time. But then the Ethio-Somali conflict started, and it was a request from the government to have a support of Cuban soldiers alongside Ethiopia to help Ethiopia to defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country.
Ambassador Vilma also pointed out that the diplomatic relations between Cuba and Ethiopia which shall be translated into more actions in favor of the bilateral cooperation. According to the ambassador, Ethiopians should honor the sacrifice their forefathers paid to protect their sovereignty, noting the role of many Cuban soldiers during the Ethiopia-Somali War.
The Cubans only participated defending the territorial integrity of Ethiopia against a foreign threat. We were in Ethiopia from 1977 to 1989. The Cubans were here. And during that period, around 43,000 Cubans were in Ethiopia at different times. Not only soldiers, I'm not talking only soldiers, I'm talking also about doctors, I'm talking also about teachers, about engineers in different fields. I mean, Cubans supporting Ethiopia. But also during the Ethiopia-Somali war, we have 163 Cubans who lost their lives here.
She further pinpointed that the government of Cuba is committed to strengthen and expand bilateral relations through channeling the interests of Ethiopian entities.
Programs that have been developed alongside these more than 40 years of relations are still going on, together with new ones. We are still cooperating. We have signed a new agreement in the area of health recently. We also have been cooperating in science and technology. We are in the process of opening our cooperation in scientific field, especially in the biotechnology and the vaccine production area, where Cuba have a lot of development and there is an interest of Ethiopia on this one. Teachers have been working also in Ethiopia in the training on the TVT institutes and other projects. We are also in the process of signing an agreement of cooperation in sport. You know, you are very well known and very successful in track and field, and this is and athletics, and this is an area where, of course, Cuba also wanted to be able to take advantage of the experience and the huge success of Ethiopian runners to learn from your experience. And also we can provide experiences on other areas like boxing and so on. That's why we are working on that cooperation. And alongside all this cooperation area, we also have cooperation in multilateral area. We have been supporting each other at the UN and in other multilateral fora. Ethiopia has been a strong supporter of Cuba in our struggle against the U.S. blockade against Cuba. Ethiopia has been voting at the UN against those unfair and unjustified sanctions imposed by the U.S. government on Cuba. And this is something that we are very grateful for. And also we have been supporting each other in candidatures and international fora. So we have a very good bilateral relations that we hope we can continue fostering along the years.
Diplomatic relations between Cuba and Ethiopia were formally established on 22 July 1975. The two nations established respective representations at the embassy's level in August 1976.
Ethiopia's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Demeke Mekonnen bid farewell to the departing Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Kwesi Kotey. On the occasion, Demeke thanked the Ghanaian diplomat for his productive tenure and for leading a commendable program of the Commission. The two sides also discussed the long-standing bilateral relations between Ethiopia and Ghana. The Deputy Prime Minister said the opportunity to call upon African countries to come together under the AU Charter and work for the prosperity of their people. He also briefed the Deputy Chairperson on the current situation in Ethiopia, on the efforts and measures by the government to address the situation. Ethiopia says it has allowed unfettered access to humanitarian organizations in the state of Tigray. In a press briefing here yesterday, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs dismissed allegations by foreign media outlets regarding the situation in Tigray as unfounded. The international community, said, must desist from baseless criticism and lend a hand to improve the situation in Tigray. The country believes the AU-led negotiation over the GED will bring a win-win solution to all. Sintayo Tamrat reports.
In his weekly briefing, the ministry's spokesperson Dina Mufti today addressed a range of issues focusing on current local, regional and global affairs, including the humanitarian situation in Tigray and the AU-led negotiation on Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Speaking on the humanitarian assistance in Tigray, Dina disclosed that a total of 135 international organizations and staff who have applied to assist in the humanitarian aid in the region were granted access.
These conditions were three. One was unfettered access. With regard to the unfettered access, all donors, the media guys, who are of the intention of traveling to Tigray can be there only with giving notifications, without any permissions or authorizations. This is one. The second one is with regard to the human rights violations. The Ethiopian government is committed to the human rights issues, and the government is committed to carry out independent investigation of the committed, quote-unquote, committed crimes by whoever does it.
However, the government is still continuing to cover 70% of aid demands despite the unfounded criticism and insignificant support from international bodies, he said.
Despite all the halubalus, despite all the noises made about the relief operations in that part of the country, 70% of the operations that has been, 70% of the relief supplies that have been given to Tigray comes from the government coffer. The donor community has been only offering 30%, and therefore the Deputy Prime Minister has put forward a request as well, a kind request to the donor communities to increase their supplies as well, because we can see that they are showing concerns, and if they have concerns, they have to increase their supplies as well.
Regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Dina pointed out that the construction of the dam is progressing well. Ethiopia, he told journalists, believes the African Union-led negotiation over the project will bring win-win solution to all.
Regarding the GERD negotiations, as you know, the Congolese have taken up the chairmanship from the African Union, from the AU, from the South Africa leadership. Now they are preparing themselves to resume negotiations, which have been halted for a while, for reasons we don't know. We know that the Congolese have been investigating on what have been taking place, and that they have had a visit to Cairo and Khartoum as well, and hopefully they'll be here as well. And we hope the resumptions, the negotiations, the tripartite negotiation will resume very soon. And we hope we'll come out with amicable solutions to the GERD issues with the downstream countries.
Ambassador Dina also touched on major activities carried out in the economic and citizen-centered diplomacy fields over the past 2 weeks.
Ministry of Women, Children and Youth says it is working to empower women in all sectors. The ministry, along with the Embassy of Japan, organized an event focusing on women entrepreneurship. Extraordinary and plenipotentiary Ambassador of Japan to Ethiopia, Ito Takako, said the embassy is jointly working with the Ethiopian government to encourage women entrepreneurship. Emmanuel Jorge reports.
Aside from the political reforms under the current leadership of the Ethiopian government, the reformist government has taken major steps in promoting gender parity within the government's appointing women to top-level positions. But on the other hand, opportunities for women entrepreneurs in Ethiopia lag far behind those of men. In the Female Opportunity Index in 2021, Ethiopia occupies the 87th rank out of 100 countries in the index, which goes 8th in Africa. The government of Ethiopia is striving to boost women participation in entrepreneurship in order to balance the gender parity in collaboration with developmental partners like the World Bank and Japanese government. The Embassy of Japan held a panel discussion on challenges and success stories of Ethiopian women entrepreneurs in the press event organized by the Embassy jointly with the Ministry of Women, Children and Youth concerning the International Women's Day celebration. On the occasion, Ethiopian Minister of Women, Children and Youth, Filsan Abdullahi, said they are working to increase active participation of women in the country's economy and politics as well.
we have a lot of women entrepreneurs, and we face a lot of challenge within that. I myself was an entrepreneur coming to this position, and I can understand the challenge that encounters them. As a minister, what am I planning to do to tackle some of the issues they face? And that is putting an appropriate policy. We're putting the Share of Eve policy, which is a policy where we're going to have a small and micro business owned by women to have a tax exempt. So that's one policy we're trying to push forward to. And I think it will have a huge impact in related to women and economically empowering women as well. To make sure women are empowered, we need to have more women leaders as figures as well. And that is something we're pushing within the coming election. We're also putting a 50-50 gender parity, where we will be introducing in every political party to make sure they have 50-50 gender parity.
Plenipotentiary Ambassador of Japan to Ethiopia, Ito Takako, said they are working with the government to empower women entrepreneurs.
We did education to start the basis for any business, either it's boy or girl. Then we also need some experiences as well as encouragement and networking, and so the knowledge is a power. And I think that's what we'd like to share with the people in Ethiopia, because we believe Ethiopia has a great potential to have economic growth, and Japan would like to be part of it.
Most growth-oriented women entrepreneurs fall into a missing middle trap in which they are served neither by commercial banks nor by microfinance institutions. Marcia Sahay, who is owner of Impact Business Group, appreciated financial and technical support of the Women Entrepreneurship Development Project, which provides finance and business support for growth-oriented women entrepreneurs in Ethiopia.
I was joined the WIDEP in Ethiopian calendar 2006. So when the WIDEP project came here, it was good, especially for all of the Ethiopian women. So when I joined there, I got the loan, a big loan. So all the business grows because of WIDEP. Also, the WIDEP supports me by technically, especially training and other support. So I appreciate that project office, and I would like to say thank you that project for not for me, for all of the women entrepreneurs.
In the press event set up in the ambassador's residence, women entrepreneurs who are benefited from the WEDP and the Japanese NGO Sasakawa exhibited their handmade products.
Contesting political parties have been busy propagating their manifesto and platform as Ethiopia's parliamentary and regional elections later for June is drawing nearer. While appreciating the facilities and impartiality from the National Electoral Board, some political parties blame the government of obstructing town hall meetings and unlawfully detaining their party members. Talking to ETV, some contesting political parties promote their economic and political ideology. Gosha Melissa filed the following report.
Historians agree on the existence of ideological differences among local governors and Emperor Minilik, but they appear to accept Minilik's call to fight against the invader, putting their differences aside. With all concerted efforts, Ethiopians were able to score a landslide victory over Italian invaders. Politicians whom ETV talked pronounced the victory of Adwa is a symbol of freedom for all black people.
Adwa signifies the liberation of all oppressed people, not only for Ethiopians or Africans, for all oppressed people by the colonialists. In Latin America, in Asia, people have been enslaved by the European colonialists. So Adwa symbolizes the candle, the freedom for all these oppressed people in Latin America or in Asia or in Africa. So it's an international victory. People may not realize it this way, but those who were oppressed, the millions oppressed, realize it.
Moreover, Public Relations Head of the Oromo Liberation Front, Qajeela Mardasa, said political parties should put aside their differences and stand in unison for their nation.
We have to differentiate the national interest and the group interest, personal interest. So it needs wisdom. If the leaders, the political leaders, to keep the national interest of the country, they should leave aside some things for the time being. For example, if Ethiopia is invaded, or if from some countries, neighboring countries now tries to open war on Ethiopia, the people or the political parties should defend the country.
Ethiopian Citizens for Social Justice Party Izema also shared this view.
I think Adwa is a very good symbol when it comes to national unity and sovereignty. You know, the way Ethiopians across the border came together to fight the Italian invasion forces to protect their liberty and freedom is a symbol that we should look up to and follow today as well. We might have differences in our political understandings, in the way we understand history. We may have different differences, but what matters is that we should be able to put our differences aside to maintain the country's unity and to build on a common vision for all of us.
Unless political parties narrow their extreme differences wisely, it is impossible to realize the aspired national goal they accounted.
The National Electoral Board of Ethiopia said over 2,000 candidates have been registered representing 15 contesting political parties. This came here yesterday when the board discussed with contesting political parties on issues emerging while the parties register candidates and promote their platforms. The board reaffirmed commitment to make the upcoming election a truly democratic one. Habtam Ashagri had the details.
As part of the upcoming general election across the country, the National Election Board of Ethiopia has undertaken its fourth consecutive discussion with 49 recognized political parties in a bid to solve identified problems related with candidates' registration activity. The board also evaluated the performance of free call service as well as major way of forward activities over the past weeks. Speaking on the occasion, chairperson of the National Election Board of Ethiopia, Birtukan Mideksa, said only 49 qualified contesting political parties have taken their election symbols to participate in the upcoming general election. According to the schedule set by National Election Board of Ethiopia, some 15 contesting political parties have registered over 2,000 candidates over the past weeks across the country. Birtukan urged contesting political parties to register their candidates based on the schedule set by the board. According to the chairperson, the National Election Board of Ethiopia always committed to solve problems raised by opposition political parties to make the candidates' registration activity effective. Some contesting political parties' representatives on their part requested the board to postpone the deadline of candidate registration.
And before we go, a reminder of our top stories. Ethiopia commences the construction of the biggest cement factory in Africa. And Ministry of Women, Children and Youth says it's working to empower women